alarm raised by the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai. The members of the Boko Haram insurgents and ill-swap terrorists have infiltrated some local government areas of the state. Get our attention tonight. We shall be dissecting the issue, looking for solutions. And Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum insists 2023 presidency must be zoned to the south. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the program this Friday. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. Let's get started with the program, shall we? We begin by letting you know that the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum is not having anything other than the idea of a Southern presidency in 2023, and they have insisted that anything outside of that is not acceptable to them. At a meeting of the leaders of the group today in Abuja, the nation's capital, the group concluded and submitted in a statement released. And I'll quote part of that statement to you. They insist to say, firmly reiterates stands on the principle of zoning and power rotation between the North and the South as a basis in which the Nigerian Federation has, since independence, been promised, states unequivocally that the zoning and rotation of the presidency of Nigeria are fundamental to the future existence of the country. Accordingly, it condemns in strongest terms obvious schemes by the two main political parties, the PDP and the APC, ahead of their presidential primaries to jettison the time-honored principle of rotation, which has traditionally served as a glue holding the Federal Republic of Nigeria together, and wants that the reported permutations by the main political parties to foist northern presidential candidates on the nation would be a grave misadventure with grim consequences on national concord and harmony. Therefore calls on delegates of all political parties and true lovers of democracy as a sacred obligation to reject presidential aspirants or candidates from the North and only vote those from the South in the party primaries. Calls on politicians and professionals from the South not to accept on any account the position of vice president, as that would amount to a shameful committer of present and future generations of southern Nigeria to senseless political vassalage. The communique was signed by Niger Delta leader Chief Edwin Clark, Chief Adebanjo, leader of Afenifere, Dr. Bitrus Pogu, President General of the Middle Belt Forum, Professor George Obiozo, President General Ohaneze Indigbo Worldwide, and Senator Emmanuel Obok Essien, the National Chairman of PANDEF. Let's tell you that Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, is asking diplomatic communities to keep an eye on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, to ensure that the elections are credible. The national chairman of the PDP, Senator Yocha Ayu, made the appeal at a meeting with the European Union delegation in Abuja. Tonight, what seems to be a very grave alarm raised by Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State gets our attention, and we'll be dissecting the issues. What led to that scenario? How can we get out of here? Because now they've released some statistics that are very heartbreaking about the deaths and the kidnapping issue around that corridor. We'll get talking about that one. I will be preferring solutions with my guests tonight on the program. But first, we will touch base with Abu Dhabi, where the President, Muhammad Buhari, is visiting the United Arab Emirates, and we'll be getting to know some of the issues as relating to that visit and what it means for Nigeria. Well, before we get into that, I'd like to give you updates on some of your political stories in our political roundup.
For Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is calling on all the political parties to adhere strictly to all the dates of the election timetable and to comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. The call was made by the Resident Electoral Commissioner for Adamawa State, Kasim Gaidam, during a stakeholders meeting at the INEC headquarters in Yola, the Adamawa State capital.
Failure to comply with the Act automatically disqualifies your candidate that comes out of that primary.
The campaign train of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, this time is making a stop in Imo State in continuation of his consultation with party delegates across the country. Professor Osinbajo was received at the Samambakwe International Airport in Owerri by Governor Hope Uzodinma, and he proceeds to the palace of the chairman of the Imo State Council of Traditional Rulers, Igwe Emmanuel Okeke, where he seeks the support of the monarch for his ambition. Governor Emmanuel Udom of Akwa Ibom State, a frontline presidential aspirant of the People's Democratic Party, has said the numerous problems confronting the country are surmountable, noting that he has the right policies that could turn things around. Mr. Udom Emmanuel made this known in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, while visiting the state to solicit the support of the delegate of the PDP presidential primaries.
As an aspirant, if you tell me to roll on the floor, I'll roll now. Once I can get the votes to rescue and restore Nigeria.
A People's Democratic Party presidential aspirant, Mohammed Hayatuddin, has continued his critical engagements and visits to leaders of thought and stakeholders in the build-up to the party's presidential primary, and his wish to emerge as the party's presidential candidate. On his visit to Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, the presidential aspirant visited former President Olusegun Obasanjo, as well as officials and delegate members of the Ogun State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, where he solicited their support. PDP chieftain and House of Representatives aspirant in Imo State, Ikenga Imo Guchinyere, has raised an alarm over an alleged plot by officials of the People's Democratic Party in Imo State working with external forces to exclude the PDP from participating in the 2023 election by using a fake delegate list from the three-man delegate election in the state.
For those who are pushing this, is still pushing it because they are in alliance with the leadership of APC here in Imo State. That once that exercise is conducted with an illegal three-man ad hoc delegate list, it means the entire 27 LUGA candidates of PDP, the House of Rep, the Senate will be null and void.
The APC in Oyo State says it is poised to correct the misgovernance of the present PDP-led administration in the state, declaring his intention to contest the governorship ticket under the APC. Former CBN Deputy Director Bayo Adelabu says he is ready to bring good governance, equitable and prudent management of resources to Oyo State. And fresh crisis seems to be looming in the Ogun State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, as a governorship aspirant of the party, Segun Showunmi, has approached the Court of Appeal sitting in Ibadan to set aside the judgment of the Ogun State High Court, which struck out his suit seeking the dissolution of the state party exco. Segun Showunmi had approached an Ogun State High Court to challenge a statement credited to a fellow contestant, Lade Adebutu, that his nomination form was purchased for him by members of the State Working Committee.
There you have it. You've been updated with some of your other political stories. Well, it's a season of politics, and you need to be in the know. That's why we brought you all of those stories. Now, let's get talking about some of our major stories. First and foremost, about the president's visit to the United Arab Emirates. Well, the president is in Abu Dhabi to meet with the new president of that country, INS Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to convey his condolences on the passing of the former president and ruler of Abu Dhabi, who passed away on Friday at the age of 73 years. President Buhari is among several other world leaders, including the United States of America, France, the United Kingdom, Maldives, and those who have visited the Emirates to congratulate Sheikh Mohammed on his emergence as the new ruler of Abu Dhabi and the president of the United Arab Emirates. But while other issues have come up since President Buhari arrived in that country, and tonight we shall be speaking with the presidency, with Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Mr. Garba Shehu, who will be speaking with us on some of the issues, especially as relating to the president's visit and perhaps some matters of state. He joins us live from Abu Dhabi this evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Garba Shehu, for joining us tonight. Give us an understanding of what the meeting of the president will be. I guess the president has met the new president of the UAE. How was that meeting? What was the outcome of that meeting?
Thank you for giving us this opportunity. The meeting has taken place at about 3 p.m. Nigerian time. And the focus of this visit, of the president's engagement here in Abu Dhabi, is, as we said, essentially to condole the government and the people of the United Arab Emirates over the demise of the former ruler of Abu Dhabi and president of UAE, and to congratulate his friend and close associate, I would call it, who had been crown prince and now, confirmed, elected as president of the UAE. And as you said, yes, that's why we're here. So they've had that meeting, and the president had done the duty of condoling the UAE on behalf of himself and the government and the people of Nigeria over the loss, and also welcoming the emergence of the new ruler of Dubai, of Abu Dhabi, and the president of UAE.
All right, it's interesting to hear. Clarify for us tonight, was our visit majorly a social one? I mean, it's a state visit, of course, because a leader is meeting a new leader of another country, so it's an official meeting, we know. But is there any other matter discussed with the new president about Nigeria and its relationship with the United Arab Emirates?
The relationship between the two countries had been on a fast track since the coming into office of President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. So we have illustrated over this last 48 hours, the president inherited the state of relationship as being one of friends, largely, dictated by, commercial engagements. This relationship has blossomed. We can call ourselves as being allies, UAE and Nigeria. So the benefits we're looking at had been building up. Essentially, UAE, as we speak today, is in a 40-day mourning period. And I think that any serious engagement, business, the politics, and the economy will probably have to wait a few more days before you can do that. So far, all leaders, including President Muhammadu Buhari, had focused on saying condolences. And in the case of President Muhammadu Buhari, he joined in the nationwide press, said in all of the mosques, announced, with the one sermon read all across the entire country, essentially outlining the qualities of the former ruler, praying for him. And yes, we joined in that prayer as well.
One will rightly say that the relationship between both countries have not been a perfect one. In terms of there seems to be some glitches in the cordiality that has been experienced over the last few years. There's been some harsh reciprocity in that relationship over the past years, especially when it comes to migration and immigration issues. Has there been any resolution in relation to the bottlenecks on visa and work permits for Nigerians who are working in the United Arab Emirates?
I am not sure there can ever be perfect relationships between two or more nations. Relationships of this nature are dictated by national interest. What is the best national interest of one country may not be the best interest of the other country. When you look at the latitude of engagement between our own two countries, dealing with so many issues beyond the issue of visa and migration and work permit. You're dealing with matters that impinge on the security of our own country, receiving the greatest level of cooperation that had helped us, for instance, to deal with inflow of money to Boko Haram terrorists, substantially curtailed, in fact, essentially blocked. A number of prosecutions have been made, convictions in the UAE, and prosecutions ongoing in our own country. And the sale of military hardware. We have bought military hardware with a lot of difficulty in some other countries. With the UAE, it's been a lot easier. And this is helped by the fact that our three leaders have established cordiality, chemistry has agreed with each other, and they have a common view of the role of Nigeria and the need for security. The new president is on record as having said at some point in the past that he believed that without a secure Nigeria, there cannot be a secure Africa. It cannot be better for us.
So I come back to the question, is there any specific action or policy direction or decision that's been made in President Buhari's this visit to the United Arab Emirates on the issue of the visa and the work permit, which has become a problem to Nigerians? We understand that is a relationship that has been created, but has there been any form of, any kind of resolution whatsoever in that respect?
This visit is essentially a visit to mourn, to condole with the government. There is not an ongoing discussion of matters of policy or outstanding issues. Matters of work permit, I know that they've been dealt with at a consular level. Our embassy is involved, and as a matter of fact, we found a window of opportunity while still here, and we saw quite a number of Nigerians, including in our own, accommodation where we're housed. A number of Nigerians, senior and junior, getting on with their jobs, have all the problems been solved. I think that the best person to tell you this would be the Nigerian ambassador in the UAE.
Okay, yeah, we do hope that, this visit also will allow that country to know that some Nigerians are worried about the stance of UAE as relating to the welfare of Nigerians who are earning legitimate means of income in that country, and perhaps smoothing that relationship by allowing them to work, if they will, in that country. But since the president announced, or the presidency announced his visit to UAE to mourn and condole with that country and the leadership, and of course to facilitate with the new president assumption of office, I don't know, Mr. Shehu, if you have heard or seen some reactions to that visit. So those who believe that, look, if the president is traveling out of the country to condole and mourn with other countries, what has stopped him from doing that to those who have experienced some deaths and disasters here in Nigeria? Is there anything, Nigerians are asking if there is anything stopping the president from going down to the points of places where people have experienced deaths, incidents of attacks by insurgents, and condoling and mourning, apart from the sort of statement I will see from your office? Is there anything really, maybe security issue, or what exactly is stopping the president from saying? These are the questions Nigerians are asking.
Well, those Nigerians should be told that they should look at all of the facts. I have accompanied the president to Sokoto on a condolence after a major incident. I've accompanied him to Zamfara. He spoke to governor, the parliamentarians, religious and traditional rulers. I accompanied the president to Benue State. He addressed the governor in Government House Makodi after a major incident. I accompanied him to Jos after a crisis. So did the president go to all of the places where there had been incidents of violence or killing? He didn't go. I'm not saying that. However, it is unfair also to make the conclusion wrongly that he had not paid attention or he had not visited. We had been to Maiduguri quite a number of times, so it depends on what Nigerians choose to look at. The president has been responsive and has been discharging the obligation that rests upon him as president and commander-in-chief in dealing with all of these matters. He has not come short in any way.
So it is a sort of a strategy not to be going to every point, but just to maybe release a statement to just show how much he feels about some of these incidents. I mean, since he has done that in the past, would possibly, well, God forbid, any kind of scenario that will cause any deaths for the deaths in Nigeria. But that's the explanation, isn't it, to Nigerians to say, look, the president can be everywhere, but does it matter the gravity or the enormity of any attack or incident? People will make reference to incident in Kaduna, the train attack, or some of the other incident, or whether there is an explanation also for some of these major incidents.
Well, we have said so much in this little space, but the point I want to make is that the administration has been very responsive. You just mentioned the railway incident in Kaduna, and this last week incident in Kano of explosion. The vice president of Nigeria was in both places. This country has one presidency. So if the president is not there on account of this or that engagement and the vice president is there, let us take it that the presidency of Nigeria has attended to those elements, to those matters.
When the president traveled, the governor of Kaduna said yesterday, said, look, there is a big infiltration in my vicinity. 2 local governments have been terribly infiltrated by Boko Haram insurgents and USWAP. That's a sad scenario because this government came into power to say, we arrest this situation, chase Boko Haram out. Everywhere they hoisted flags, we have decapacitated them and they cannot hold territories on Nigerian soil. But that news, I'm not sure, or what is the status of that kind of story to the president, and what is the presidency's reaction to that kind of story coming from Kaduna? It's northeast that we're experiencing Boko Haram insurgency. Now the northwest governor, Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, has raised the alarm that there is an infiltration of Boko Haram. That's a bad news, isn't it?
No, on the contrary, if people are keeping track of what has been happening, for quite some time, the military authorities have been saying that the Northeast had become too hot for ISWAP and Boko Haram, and that they were drifting, moving away to areas where they would find, comfort to, carry out the nefarious activities that they had been engaged in. So if the governor of Kaduna State is ringing the bell that such an incident, that the Boko Haram elements have been found, it tells you that they have been proactive in that state. They have they have a keen eye on developments in those areas. And what they are doing is they are supplying information. And what I expect would follow is then that the military authorities, all of them, would mobilize and ensure that those terrorists are taken, they are not allowed that space that they need in order to carry out these activities. The governor has perfectly done right, and I think that if every governor, if every community in the country will be so keenly watching and reporting as situations of this nature arise, all of these problems would have been dealt with, would have put everything behind us for a long time.
It's obvious it's an obvious setback for Nigeria, not only for the APC government and President Muhammadu Buhari administration that promised that he's going to silence these insurgents. But now, I'm not sure you've heard the news that is coming in that the Nigerian Railway Corporation has suspended resumption of activities on the Kaduna-Abuja rail tracks because of the incident that happened. They plan to resume operations, but that has now been stopped. Any reaction from the presidency on this incident?
No, this is news to me, and we're just getting it from you. But of course, we are aware that there has been resistance from family members of those who have been taken captive And of course, this is expected. So this then should act as a pressure on all of the people who are involved in the ongoing, discussion with the terrorists to ensure a safe release of those that are being held. Position of government has been stated and restated over time that the success of any operation will be determined by the number of recoveries of human beings alive and well, not at the return of dead bodies. So, and the agencies of government have spoken about the fact that negotiations are ongoing. It will be obviously difficult, but we hope that the need to resume normalcy would act as a pressure on all of those engaged in the process to expeditiously ensure that the return is achieved of all of those who are held captive.
On a final note, I understand that President Buhari is due to return to Nigeria tomorrow, Saturday. From what you mentioned now, you said that negotiations are ongoing to ensure the release of those captives from the Kaduna train attack. But what more good news can you tell us? Can we have some good news in respect of those captives, whether or not there is a timeline of when we should expect them back to their family members? Is there a possibility of that?
Well, I can tell you that I know that the country's secret service is the one that is involved in this, and they don't put their matters on display when they do. They know who they are talking to, and I want to believe that they have done the most that can lead to the establishment of credibility between themselves and those that they are talking to. In effect, are they prepared to believe our secret service? I think that lies at the crux of the issue. We hope that the terrorists themselves, brutal and wicked as their action is, they will show a sense of humanity, given that they are holding not only women, pregnant, children, and aged, and people who are sick. I mean, it's sickening, and we hope that sanity will return to them, and they will let those people go.
On a final note, before we allow you to go, Mr. Shehu, is a big question on how safe that corridor is or will be going forward. The thinking is that if the Nigerian Railway Corporation says it wants to resume operation, when we imagine that what the Ministry of Transportation said the other time about the surveillance on that track, maybe something has been done. Can you give us any information in that respect? Has anything been done in that regard? Do we have surveillance on that track? Or there's any improvement on security in that corridor?
Yes, there is improvement in security. The air surveillance has been announced by the former Minister of Transportation, and the President, as far as we know, has okayed the electronic monitoring and surveilling in a platform that would ensure that there is tracking far and near of all that is going on along the rail track, not only between Kaduna and Abuja, but even Ibadan and Lagos. So I believe that people are doing what it would take to put those appliances in place so that total safety would be ensured. But if the rail tracks, if the trains had resumed, I would have been on the train myself, because I believe that I have received enough assurances from Ministry of Transportation and security agencies that they are safe to now resume those operations.
All right. We do hope that efforts are being made, of course, to make not only the tracks safe, but of course the expressway, which we recently saw an attack there. But thank you so much, Mr. Garba Shehu, for talking to us. And it's also good to hear that you will take a ride on the train if it resumes, because of the assurances that has been taken. We hope to see pictures of you actually getting on that train, just to give confidence to Nigerians to get back on that rail track. Thank you so much, Mr. Shehu, for talking to us tonight.
I'll invite you to join me on that day.
Well, work may not allow me, but we would love to see you on that rail track. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, we'll take a break, everyone, and when we return, Professor Usman Yusuf, a former executive director of the NHIS, will be joining us. He knows so much about the corridor of Kaduna and the incidents that are happening there, especially the statement from Governor Nasir El-Rufai, and also Mr. Bulama Bukati, a lawyer and an expert who has written widely, researched widely on the issue of Boko Haram. They will be discussing with us on the alarm raised by Governor Nasir El-Rufai and majorly offering solutions. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Yesterday, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State raised an alarm that members of a Boko Haram insurgents and USWAP terrorists have infiltrated some local government areas of the state with the aim of causing havoc to the state. The governor mentioned the local governments to include Buhari, Giwa, and Shikun, where the high incidence of the use of improvised explosive devices in the area suggests that terrorists have moved into Kaduna State. Don't forget what the federal government also said, confirming that the attack on the train station was a collaboration between the bandits and Boko Haram insurgents. Perhaps something that was first muted right here on this program a day after that incident. Now, tonight we'll be discussing that matter, but let me refresh your memory, everyone, in case you forgot what Governor El-Rufai said yesterday, and I get my guest tonight to get into the discussion and give us some solution. Take a listen to Governor Nasir El-Rufai.
The incidents of use of improvised explosive devices and mines in the state. We've been lucky, and thanks to the police, we have been able to defuse many of the IEDs without major loss of lives. But this is still a major concern, because these IEDs are being placed in nightclubs and other public spaces. And it shows very clearly a movement from banditry to terrorism with expertise in making explosive devices. Again, this is because Boko Haram and Ansari elements have moved into the state. And from what we have seen, that the security agencies are overstretched. We really need to ramp up the recruitment of our vigilant service volunteers. I think the 1,000 that we recruited and trained at the police college had been very useful in assisting the army, the police, and other security agencies. And perhaps this is time for the Commander Vigilance Service to work with our traditional leaders and religious leaders to get another 1,000 and send them to police college for training.
Well, that's the governor there, Nasir El-Rufai. The governor made the disclosure after he received the 2022 first quarter security report from the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, at the council chambers of the Sir Kashim Ibrahim House in Kaduna. In the report, 360 people were killed by bandits and terrorists between January to April of 2022, while 1,839 people were kidnapped by the same criminals during the period under review. Let's see if we can proffer some solutions to some of these ugly trends in that region and in the state, and the threat posed by Boko Haram. I'm being joined by Professor Usman Yusuf, a former executive director of the NHIS, who has done extensive work and consultations around that area with stakeholders there. He's in our Abuja studio tonight. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And let's get also the thoughts and the expertise of Mr. Bulama Bukati, who is a lawyer whose expertise of law is both in Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Is a security and conflict expert, and also someone who researches for the Tony Blair Institute. Thank you so much, Mr. Bukati, for joining us tonight. Let's get talking.
Thank you for having me.
This scenario painted by Governor El-Rufai, is it new to you? If it's not, what do you think is at the bottom of all of this issue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. This is old news, and I'm surprised he's bringing it now. Boko Haram, Dar es Salaam, and Ansaru, they've been in Kaduna for close to 5 years or more.
But they've been actively
operating
there.
Absolutely. So I don't know why he's bringing it now. This is not new intelligence, no.
But I mean, since you knew 5 years ago,
right,
Prof, have you ever said it?
No, this is in the intelligence community, we knew. Look at Niger, there is a sliver of an area to Niger, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Kaduna. Niger, they've been planting their flags for how long?
On the road or in communities?
No, in communities, taking over local governments and planting their flags. In Kaduna State, they've not been planting their black flags. But in Niger State, we know they have.
Where in Niger State?
In Shiroro, in Rafi, in all these other local governments. They've been doing this.
But they're not taking territories, they're just hoisting flags.
Binnengwari is essentially an Ansaru territory. Not today, not yesterday, not last year, not the year before. And we saw that recently. There was a huge headline by Daily Trust. Ansaru recruiting in Binnengwari. And during Salah, they were distributing gifts. So this is not new. This is not new. Boko Haram has been infiltrating Niger and the Kaduna State area. And we need to ask ourselves, all these 13, 14 years that Boko Haram has been operating, why now? And why didn't he get a foothold then? The reason he didn't get a foothold then was not because of lack of trying, or not because of they didn't want to. But because it was long before they picked up arms. Long before they picked up arms in the Northwest, they were preaching all over. As far as Sokoto, Muhammad Yusuf was going as far as Sokoto preaching to get converts. Why did they not get a foothold in the Northwest? The largest population center in this country, it's not for lack of trying. It's essentially because of the hard work, the proactive, behind-the-scene work of traditional rulers and clerics in the Northwest that preach to Muslim faithful in the region not to accept
this. Is there a collapse of that system
so
for us to now see what is happening now?
So now what you're seeing infiltration. And yet, partly is because of the pressure they're feeling in the Northeast from the military operations there, and they are finding other territories. But I've never been comforted by this 51,000 repentant Boko Haram in Borno State. Why are they just letting them go? ISWAP is wanting to be lean and meaner, not bulky as it was then. It's never been comforting for me. 50,000 sitting there, we are feeding them. Repentant Boko Haram, what do you do with them?
You don't agree with that system of
receiving
repentant Boko Haram?
Good. The Governor Nasir El-Rufai has said time and time again he does not believe in repentant bandits. But I do, because we have dealt with repentant bandits, and anybody that repents, even God Almighty, whatever sin you commit, you do, he forgives. Inna Allahu Ghafurur Rahim. Boko Haram, they are repentant. The governor said it. 51,000 repentant Boko Haram and their families. This is good. I will tell you why.
51,000. Prof, just a moment. I'm a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
I follow Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah.
And that stadium is about 53,000 people.
Absolutely.
So that means we're looking at repentant Boko Haram up to the amount of people at Stamford Bridge or Old Trafford.
Absolutely.
Is that what we're looking at?
Good to situate it that way. 51,000 repentant Boko Haram, they've repented, which is very good. In any war, when people drop their arms and come to you, this is very good. At least what you have done, you have taken this many people off the battlefield and reduced the strength of the enemy. It's very good. Now the hard work is what do you do with them to reintegrate them? Because they are ours. They are our flesh and blood. We like it or not. We have to find a way to reintegrate them. That is difficult, but it's doable with everybody coming in. And I commend the leadership, the political and the religious and the traditional leadership in Borno State for working hard to do this. It's not the job of the military. So ISWAP is feeling a lot of heat there. They have to find places to vent.
So that is the cause of what we are seeing now.
They are coming in here. We know the first person that brought Boko Haram to Niger State was Dogo Gide as far back as 2016, when he wanted them to beef up his flanks. And after that, he fought them. And that is now, we have been saying, all these years we've been going into the forest with Sheikh Gumi, he would tell me with a sense of urgency, we need to get to these bandits before this Boko Haram get to them with their twisted religious ideologies. Because these bandits do not have any religious ideologies, they're just criminals looking for money and causing all of this. If you have a combination of Boko Haram coming from the ISWAP, Boko Haram coming with their twisted religious ideologies, meeting, working with these bandits that are fearless warriors that know the terrain. And I've said it again and again, it's a security nightmare for this country. And the moment we saw that train attack, we knew it was not the job of the ragtag bandits we've been meeting all these years. For clear reasons. One, the use of explosives. Bandits do not use explosives. They are learning now, like Governor El-Rufai is saying. And we know they are teaching them to use explosives. That's why they are planting IEDs. The second thing is that when they went into the carriage, the audacity of the attack is what?
Prof, let me bring in Mr. Bulama Bukati from London. I was making that analogy. I mean, when he mentioned 51,000, and I look at it, the capacity of the Abuja National Stadium, the MKO Abuja National Stadium, is about 60,000. So we're seeing people repentant Boko Haram to that amount. But give us an understanding of where we need to go from here. When the governor of the state comes and says, look, there is an infiltration in 2 local governments, and these are major local governments in Kaduna State. What are your views on this, on the ongoing?
El-Rufai's information, I agree with Professor that it's not new information. Boko Haram, Ansaru in particular, is the Boko Haram faction that is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. And that faction broke away from the main Boko Haram in 2011. And since 2011, when it broke away, the group has always been resident in the northwestern part of Nigeria, but not in Kaduna. It had been resident in Zamfara State. And they did commit attacks in 2011, 2012, and 2013, including abduction of foreigners. But then they went underground when their leaders were killed, some of them arrested. But then even when they went underground, they were not perpetrating attacks, but they continued to recruit, including by preaching in Fulfulde language, including in Ramadan and infiltrating villages. But they were also providing microeconomic loans to farmers in such local governments as Afe local government and Maradun in Zamfara State. What we saw recently, and this happened about 3-4 years ago, was they are moving to Kaduna State and to Briningwari. And of course, there are 3 new developments, even though the group has been in Kaduna for about 4 years. The first is that there has been a renewed effort to recruit and to expand. And that's how we saw them expanding from Briningwari to Chukun and to other areas of Kaduna State. The second thing we saw recently was that from January 2020, Ansaru started claiming attacks. And their claim of attack in January 2020 was the first since 2013, when their leaders were arrested or killed. And the third new dynamic is that there is also, renewed communication and propaganda effort on the part of Ansaru. And this is a group that is very clever. They are smarter than Shekau's Boko Haram, for example. They perpetrate attacks and they refuse to claim them because they don't want to attract attention. So these are some of the new developments in Kaduna, but also we know that Ansaru is present in other parts of the Northwest, including Zamfara that I have mentioned. The last thing I would mention on this is that other factions of Boko Haram are also present in the northwest and the north central parts of Nigeria. So, for example, the ISIS-affiliated faction, ISWAP, recently claimed an attack in Kogi State, and we have verified that attack to be true. And so they have expanded to Kogi State. We know that they are present in Nasarawa. We know that they are present in Niger State. And just to correct one impression, the impression that Boko Haram did not get a foothold in northwestern Nigeria previously is incorrect. Boko Haram did establish a big
Mr. Bukati
in Wudil of Kano State in as far back as 2007, 2008, and they had over 3,000 members around Wudil and environs.
Mr. Bukati, I deeply apologize because we need to continue this conversation because we have some commitment that we need to attend to quickly, but in 30 seconds, Prof, we need to go. What is your solution that you need to give tonight?
The solution is we need to realize we're in big trouble. Everybody needs to get in. This fire brigade approach will not work. Everybody needs to get in. We are in more trouble today than we were before because of this marriage between bandits and Boko Haram.
Prof, Mr. Bukati, please, I will implore you that please can you make a comeback on this topic so that we can have an extensive conversation on this. It looks to me that we need to talk more about this. Thank you so much, Prof, and Mr. Bukati for joining me tonight. But that's how we end the show tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.